That's Joanna Wozniak-Brown to present UConn's CIRCA program regarding the resilient phase 2, the phase 2 report. Would that be acceptable to the members?
Yes. Sounds good.
You're killing, right?
Oh,
No.
well, I don't know.
Well, we haven't called the meeting to order. We don't have a quorum.
Right.
Okay.
So we're just going to
Do the presentation.
have the presentation preceding the call to order.
All right.
That's fine.
Okay,
That's
You
fine.
ready to go?
Joanna, you ready to go?
I am. If I could be granted access for screen sharing, then that would be great.
Why?
Not yet. It says host disabled participant screen sharing for the PowerPoint.
Oh, I did the wrong way.
There we go. Okay, great. Can everybody see the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me here this morning, and also for the option virtually. It makes this type of engagement a lot more accessible for these larger projects. So we truly appreciate it. This little bit of an update. We have been talking to a lot of the municipalities for the past year, and the COGs in Fairfield and New Haven counties for the Resilient Connecticut project. And so we're excited to be moving from what was phase 2 to phase 3. If you remember, Resilient Connecticut was a 2-county wide project for Fairfield and New Haven counties.
Off it, but to that little square when she's on the share screen. How do I get-
It was Fairfield and New Haven counties for unmet need recovering from Superstorm Sandy. And these were funds from HUD actually to address the unmet need. So phase 2 was doing the climate vulnerability assessment, doing lots of engagement. And now we're moving on to actually doing adaptation projects to resolve the issues that we were able to find in our report. So as you might remember, we were doing monthly updates last year to the COG boards. We did several regional workshops on the different products that we made, the different maps that we made. And then we went and had regional workshops to talk about the areas that we thought should be focused on to do projects. And then we met with municipal staff from the top 20 project areas. We had a public comment period for the climate vulnerability assessment and the list of opportunity areas. It was a longer list of actually 63. And in November, we talked to COG staff, all the different state agencies like DEEP, Department of Housing, DPH, to go over these opportunity areas and any permitting issues they thought might come up or other things that they're working on that we know we should incorporate at the same time. And then in this last spring, we were updated COG staff again on where we were. So we've been trying to reach as many, as much of the COGs as possible throughout 4 COGs in the 2-county region. And so we have, I think it's 13 of the 19 towns in the Naugatuck Valley COG region. And now we've expanded it. We've gotten state funding to expand it. So we're hoping to engage more of the other towns that weren't in this original one. So last fall, that report that was out for public comment was the climate vulnerability assessment and had the list of 63 resilience opportunity areas, or ROARs is what we're calling them, which are basically the project areas that we thought should be focused on because they had high climate vulnerability and then other things that either the town or the region wanted to be addressing. And so after we created this list of 63, we used something called a persists framework to prioritize what should be moving forward. I want to stress that while we had a list of 63 across the 2 counties, but we're only moving forward with a handful right now, we're hoping that this is going to be leading to what is being called the resilience project pipeline. And so that there will be a slew of project on deck ready for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, for any other projects that the state wants to take up. We're trying to make sure that we're getting all of these in front of the right people, because these are not just climate issues, but also other things that, like I said, are priorities for the communities. And so in that other report, skipped ahead. So this is what a resilience opportunity area looks like. It's the climate vulnerability and the social vulnerability. And then some of them have either regional assets or infrastructure or critical facilities, historic resources, or it has TOD potential, because we know that those are strong regional assets that want to be invested in the TOD corridor. And in the climate vulnerability assessment, we had both flooding and heat were the primary things that we were focusing on, the climate impacts of those. And then we also produced maps to combine to see which areas have the most all at the same time to deal with. So you can go back and review that report to refresh your memory if you would like. And as I mentioned, we did this persist framework to try and score and rank or prioritize the different projects to be focusing on and moving forward. If you've done the hazard mitigation plan process, you might recall Stapley is a similar sort of scoring metric based on different categories. And what ours is persists, and it's similar. It's permittable, equitable, realistic, safe, innovative, scientific, transferable, and sustainable. And sustainable is used in a broader sense here. This was not just done in a vacuum with CIRCA staff doing this. This was constantly checked back and forth with COG staff or state agencies and the municipalities. Because it's not our job to pick which ones we think you should do. We can make a list, but we want to make sure this is something that's a priority for the municipalities to move forward. So we had the list of 63 in that phase 2, in that vulnerability report. The COGs had an opportunity to review and offer public comment. We amended some of the RORs based on feedback, whether it was like tweaking the boundary or describing it a little bit more, or even added one. I know the communities of Monroe and Brookfield in the other COGs had offered some particular comments to change on there. And then using the persist criteria, we whittled that down to 20 locations that are featured in this new phase 2 report. And then we had further discussions with municipalities, state agencies, and the COGs. And then we have about 7 that are moving forward for projects this year. Resilience opportunity areas were made up of different recipes, and you can read the report to get into further of the details, but they focused on what was a climate vulnerability and what are the things that we need to protect. So for example, for the TOD service area, there's a lot of them along the coastline that have a lot of high flood and high heat vulnerability. And also we wanted to make sure we're not going contrary to what municipalities wanted to do. So we had the layer of future plan development areas. So that's your development areas you've already identified in your POCD. And the affordable housing, we focused on high flood vulnerability and where there are housing assets in those risk areas. And if we needed to, we would add on further layers to try and sort out whether it's a distressed municipality or an opportunity zone. So today I wanted to focus on the phase 2 report, which was finalized in February, but we've made some slight changes based on comments from another COG who had wanted to make sure that the hazard mitigation actions were featured in the report. We reviewed the hazard mitigation plans for the report, and we incorporated a lot of the actions that were involved. But because, as I mentioned at the beginning, this resilience project pipeline is really important to make sure that all of our representatives are hearing about it and prioritizing these things and making sure all these other planning efforts are not going ignored. And so the hazard mitigation actions across the 4 COGs were included as an appendix in this report in the updated version. They're not necessarily climate actions. And so we didn't really change the RORs, but we wanted to make sure that they were just included by reference. And this is just a text on page 18. It just describes that it's added. We want to make sure that people are noticing it and consider those in the overall project pipeline. For your COG, we have 6 NVCOG locations. We're in those 63 resilience opportunity areas, and 4 made it to the top 20. Across the 4 COGs, there are 7 projects that are moving to phase 3, which involves hiring a consultant and getting design work and hopefully a grant application at the end of this next year. And based on our conversations with those, with the 4 NVCOG towns at the moment, Ansonia is the only one that's moving forward at the moment to phase 3. And that will be focusing on current and future climate-induced flooding impacts in the downtown and the extreme heat impacts on Ansonia residents. We've put together a story map. There's a link at the bottom, and I can put it in the chat after, and also share it with the COG afterwards to distribute. But this story map is an interactive website so that you can go through and look at the communities that were in the top 20 roars. We hope to add to this over time as time allows. But if you click along the top, there's Ansonia, Derby, downtown Naugatuck, and downtown Waterbury, which are in the top 20. And so you can go through and see why they were included, and hopefully just pull the maps out. And if you have a grant application that comes up, you can just use that information and plug it in. And also the information in the phase 2 report should be readily accessible for anything else that you want to include in your other planning efforts. I've already mentioned the pipeline project, the Resilience Project pipeline, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. But there's also Connecticut Deep has released a climate resilience grant program that's coming up. So that's another way you can get funding. The FEMA BRIC funding, which is a new program that's emphasizing resilience. Resilience has gone on and off in the hazard mitigation grant programs, but with this BRIC program, it's a central tenet. And then in state funds, that's another reason why we wanted to include other planning priorities from your POCDs so that you can be accessing potential state funds like STEEP or the Drinking Water Revolving Fund, or working on the brownfields, which I know that is a strong priority for your region. We're hoping that today we can achieve endorsement from the Naugatuck Valley COG, because this endorsement from 4 COGs, which are a very strong presence in the state, will show support for these projects, and not just the ones that are moving forward to phase 3 at this time. So we hope that we'll be able to do that today. I think we have a minute for questions if there's time, but if you haven't had a chance to check out our website, those are our addresses, or you can email me at joanna@uconn.edu if you have any questions outside of the meeting.
Okay, so thank you very much. We're going to get the meeting started. Anybody has any questions, they can address them to her directly. And I know this is an item on the agenda, so if there's anything really pressing, you can have an opportunity to ask at that time. This time I'm going to call the meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
America, a republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please be advised that this meeting will conclude at 11 o'clock this morning. Would you please call the roll? Mayor Proficie from Ansonia,
Present.
First Selectman Smith from Beacon Falls,
Here.
First Selectman Story from Bethlehem, and
He's not attending.
Yeah. Mayor Caggiano from Bristol,
Here.
Mayor, Town Manager Kimball from Cheshire, or Town Council Chair Tim Slocum. None. Mayor Deacon from Derby,
Here.
First Selectman Ed St. John from Middlebury,
Ed let us know that he wouldn't make it.
That's Mayor Hess from Naugatuck,
Here.
First Selectman Temple from Oxford,
Here.
Mayor Kilduff from Plymouth,
Here.
Mayor Chatfield from Prospect.
Here.
Bob here somewhere.
Yep. First Selectman Dragonis from Seymour,
Here.
Mayor Loretti from Shelton is here. First Selectman Manville from Southbury. One more try. First Selectman Manville from Southbury. He's not here. Okay. First Selectman Moan from Thomaston.
Here.
Mayor O'Leary from Waterbury is not present. Town Council Chair Ramsey from Watertown is
They're not.
present. Yep.
Watertown let us know they weren't.
Okay. Mayor Dunn from Wolcott.
Here.
And First Selectman Perkinson from Woodbury.
Or Bill Agresta, go on. Either one.
Okay. In addition, just to keep track, we have a number of guests attending the meeting. First, John Field from Demas, Jameson Polk representing Senator Murphy's office, Janine Lupo, representing Representative Johanna Hayes, April Chaplin, representing Kennedy Center, Lou Mangini from Representative Laura's office, Ellen Graham from Senator Blumenthal's office, as well as Representative Cindy Harrison, Tom Hyde, representing Arctic Valley Regional Development Corporation, and Barbara Kolaski from Northeast Transportation.
You have a quorum present for both boards.
Okay, we'll move on to item number C, public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to address the COG, please just so state your name and address for the record.
We did not receive any online request in advance.
Okay, so item number 2 is the CNVMPO meeting. You have item 2A, the approval of the resolution 2022-14 tip amendment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. So we have 3 tip amendments for this meeting. The first one will be for project 0140-0178. This is the National Highway System Bridge painting. This will be the preservation of bridges with a rating of 6 or greater along Route 8 between Thomaston and Litchfield. The goal is to extend these bridges' service lives. The total cost of this project will be $14.3 million, a federal cost of $11.4 million, a state cost of $2.8, and no local funding. The second project will be number 0171-0484. This is beam end repairs on various bridges. This will be repairing steel beam ends that are leaking under bridge expansion joints. There are 17 bridges as part of this project, but none of these bridges are within the NVCOG or CNVPO regions. The total cost will be $32.6 million, a federal cost of $26 million, a state cost of $6.5 million, and no local funding. And the last project will be for the Waterbury Branch Line Operating Funds. This will be converting FHWA funding under the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality to FTA funding to cover the operating expenses for the additional Waterbury Line service. This service will include 7 additional trains per day, scheduled to begin July 10th for a total of 22 trains per day. And the total funding for the years of 2022, 23, 24, and future years. The total funding will be $18.4 million. The federal will be 14.7, state will be 3.6, and there'll be no local funding. So as you can see on your screen, the recommended motion is to adopt the CNVPO resolution 2022-14 to approve the above listed tip amendments. I'll take any questions.
Anyone want to introduce that motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion. You can see there's no end for money in the United States of America. God bless us all. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, Matt, motion passes unanimously. Okay, item number 3, NVCOG administrative items. 3A, approval of the minutes for May 13th.
Motion to accept.
Motion is made. Is there a second and seconded? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
I abstain. I was not present.
Motion carries. Item number 3B is the approval of the agency financial report and summaries for the period ending 4/30/22. Michael.
Thank you. So this is the report ending April 30th, 2022, being about 83% of the way through the year. It did go out earlier this week. And as you all know, we adopted a deficit budget last June. But even though our current bottom line is 161,000, we're still on target to have a surplus of about $30,000 to $40,000. Other than that, all our major funding sources are spending on targets such as PL and RSG, and there has been no unexpected reduction in funding sources. On the expense side, we do have a couple overages, particularly in advertisement. That mainly has to do with all the new jobs we were advertising for. We had to continuously advertise since we weren't getting a lot of candidates for a number of the positions. And then dues and subscriptions, that's basically just new staff joining professional organizations, going to conferences and trainings. And then, of course, the professional services, which is what we anticipated as the Kinneytown Dam expenses that are continuously ongoing, and that's currently sitting just above $50,000 in expense. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Motion to approve budget as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to introduce my new staff accountant to the board, if you would allow.
Hi, I'm Faith.
So this is Faith. She just joined us this week. She's my new staff accountant. Would you like to give a little blurb?
Hello.
hiding behind a chair.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Faith. I am a rising senior. I'm going to be finishing in December as finance accounting in Western Connecticut.
Excellent.
And you're from?
I'm from Seymour.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay,
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
okay, Director. You're up.
Not me. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not
You're not
participating in the meeting. Just FYI, no one is here from Condot either. I'm supposed to be in a training session at Condot, which has been all week long, which is where Mark has been all week long. So Josh has handled the run through and it's.
All right, Josh, you're up then.
Yep, and so briefly as I can, in place of a director's report, we do want to recognize our summer interns, both from the Sustainable CT program, which are Adrian Huck, who is a rising junior at Tufts, and Michio Agresta, who is right there for you, as well as a rising senior at UConn. In addition, we've brought on Jack D'Oliveira, hiding out in the back, who is a PhD candidate at the University of South Carolina. And they've all got started in the last couple of weeks and done great work so far, and we're excited to have them here. In addition, I very briefly want to recognize two of our staff who have achieved professional milestones in the last 2 weeks. One of whom is Kevin Ellis, who just this past Friday took his PE exam and was notified on Monday that he passed and is now a professional engineer. And also Savannah Nicole, who has taken 2 exams to become a certified zoning enforcement officer and has passed them both and is now given her certification.
Congratulations. Thank you. So just for the record and a point of information, there are 2 openings in the city of Shelton. One in engineering and one in zoning enforcement.
You dog.
Interns.
It's okay. He won't pay enough. Don't worry.
So we're gonna up the offer to make sure you guys stay. So in recognition of your accomplishments, I have a couple of Dunkin' Donuts gift certificates that I'll hand out.
Thank you.
All right,
That's it.
that's it.
That's it.
We're gonna bring this guy in for the director's report every month. All right, John DeCarlo, you gotta follow up in the same fashion now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll do my best. Good morning.
Thank you for your report.
Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Want to make sure everyone can hear me before I continue.
All right.
We hear you fine, John.
Excellent. Thank you again. I'd like to note a couple of things we're going to be working on in the next couple of months, as we've been providing updates on municipal solid waste issues at so many meetings for the 8 municipalities that submitted grant applications to DEP for the SMM grants. We're continuing to work with the department to have these approved. We expect they will be approved in batches beginning soon. There are internal issues with DEEP that have to be resolved before they can begin awarding the funding. We've also had additional dialogue recently with DEP staff on the municipal solid waste crisis. Commissioner Dykes reached out in an email to all our CEOs yesterday, offering to discuss collaboration opportunities between the department and interested municipalities regarding investment in infrastructure. We strongly encourage you to respond. DEEP has already seen this region's commitment to the issue and how well we've worked with the department in pursuing SMM grants. And this is an opportunity to begin productive dialogue on meaningful ways your town can benefit from additional collaboration with DEEP. Also, the Connecticut Coalition for Sustainable Materials Management, the DEEP-led group, will hold its next meeting this coming Wednesday, June 15th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. We encourage participation from your municipality in that as well. Please contact Christine O'Neill on our staff or myself for login details. Finally, legislation was approved during this session that ended last month that involves COGS providing input on developing internship and apprenticeship programs for building officials. As there's a statewide lack of qualified candidates for many openings, we look forward to developing a state policy that can help address this issue. That is my update, Mr. Chairman. Happy to take any questions.
John, I have one question. What is it with the waste, the trash,
But, yeah, actually, I was gonna speak to it as well.
yeah, it's a complicated issue. We've had some discussions about it, but I'm just a little perplexed about what deep things they could do at the local level.
No, it's so Mayor O'Leary and I have both had a conversation with Commissioner Dykes about this. What it is she sent you all a letter asking for a meeting. It is about having us set up our own regional waste authority that the CEOs in the region would control. And what statutes could be, what statutes we could avail ourselves of in order to control your own waste stream jointly. It could be anything from just negotiating tipping fees together, or as harsh part of the group, doesn't have to be all 19 towns on every activity, all the way up to potential for funding from the state to build regional transfer facilities, recycling facilities, organic waste digesters, things like that.
With that said, and the history that we've had in Connecticut, I'm still at a loss to understand her approach. The problem, at least in my humble opinion, is deep and not at this level. People at this level get along.
You're right, and the goal of this conversation is to place control with the municipal CEOs in determining your future for waste management. That's what Mayor O'Leary and I were interested in having a conversation about. So that was the genesis of the letter, and our staff will work with the commissioner's staff to get a meeting.
Through the chair. Through the chair, if I might add, I think it's a great idea. I think our council of governments are 19 communities. I think we have a good team here for the future. Again, I speak for Bristol, Plymouth, and myself, and Prospect. We're in a long-term contract with a very good tipping fee. But again, with all that trash leaving Hartford and all that, and possibly jumping in front of our truck somewhere along the line in the future, I think this team here could put a good plan together for the future, and especially in the Naugatuck Valley area and our COG area. I think we got the right players in the game, and I think we've been around, a lot of people have been around for a while, seen where it was and where it's going. I would 100% be in support of our COG taking the lead role on this.
And through the chair, if you don't mind, I think I agree with Mayor Dunn on this. And I think the ask is, how do we respond back to that email that is going to get us a seat at the table? Is that what we're looking for?
Actually, we don't need anything today other than for you to individually respond either to our staff here or directly to the commissioner staff. We don't have a date for a meeting yet, so we need to sort of get everyone organized, but it would be not a COG meeting, but probably the same format, a Zoom meeting of the CEOs with staff.
Mr. Chairman. First of all, I agree with the other speakers. Our team is far better than their team in general. Agreed. But being more specific, we've been trying to work with them on an anaerobic digestion regional project, and I'll just say one town, Naugatuck, didn't get as far as we should have. So teaming up with 19 towns or more is obviously better. So we should definitely pursue it.
Well, look, I think you're making my point here.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's just, this has been coming for a long time, and this is a problem. This is a real legitimate problem, and government needs to solve this. So
from what I've learned, having participated in this, first of all, let me say, Rick Thomason's interested in the concept of the COG putting together a program. We are on board with that 100%. I think we all agree we can do it better in the state. That said, and my participation in this is like Tom Dunn's has been for a while. We've been talking with DEP, and they are interested in more of a regional approach to it. They don't think a single authority someplace and or a single plant where it would be located is the answer. They're looking for a regional approach as well. So that feeds right into perfectly councils of government in this group or in collaboration with others, perhaps forming their own solution to the problem. And it could be anaerobic digesting. It could be a trash to energy. It could be any one of a number of things, but they're putting it back in our laps, which is the right place for it because we know we can figure it out better. So they are in favor, is my point, of handing it off to us because God knows they don't know what to do with it. Okay.
But the problem is that they are the final arbiter,
And they are, and they are, and they are,
you know.
and they recognize that, but the point is they're willing to work with us because that's the direction they want to move with it. And when they're interested in moving in that direction, then the likelihood of them working with us is much better than us pushing back.
I would just to put a cap on this, the discussion was about what statutory authority would we have? What's the availability to funding or debt, whatever's required to establish whatever a regional authority wants. The model is the one that's based in Brookfield. I can't remember the name. It handles a lot of Litchfield County. They have a regional waste authority, very similar model. And they can contract together to do any number of things. And again, everyone doesn't have to participate in every activity of the Regional Waste Authority, but giving control to, there are obviously at least a half dozen chief elected officials and 3 who have had deep experience dealing with CRRA and dealing with trash disposal over the years on this, in this COG. So, and I'm sure you've noticed we've been assembling a strong team under Aaron Bougers to work on solid waste management issues here. So I think we're in good shape. We just want to find out, this first meeting is to find out what's possible. That's all.
If I could put in my 2 cents, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead, Bob. I've been involved with this since 1988. The bottom line, listening to all of you said, we need more plants. Bottom line. Can't keep hauling our garbage to Ohio, wherever it's going. We've been with Bristol since '88. Right? Fine. But we need more plants. Thank you. Okay, we're all set here? Good. All right, so then we'll go on to item number 5 is the emergency management, the COVID response update. John Field.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead, Joanne. No, I just wanted to say, yes, thank you. I'm also going to be speaking Joanna Rogalski, and I just want to take it away, John. Good morning, all. Thank you for the opportunity again. Just real quick, I'll go down through this. We had our EPI last week, and there was pretty good participation from the region, which we truly appreciate. This is that annual exercise that's done annually, was held off for a couple of years due to COVID. So now we're actually back doing it. So it was a little technological challenge because we were intertwining a couple different technologies, and but it worked out. It seemed to work out all right. As you can imagine, with the current events that are happening, school safety and security has become a big inquiry. We're getting a lot of inquiries about school safety and security. The media is also, anytime these events happen, the media comes around and wants to know who submitted their plan, who hasn't. So we've been working that through. Fortunately for Region 5, I have to say, the submittal of plans has been really good. We got to work on the drill logs and crisis log. But the plans have been really good, but we'll continue to work through that and work with the schools on that. We also started our school safety and security working group, which is the SROs from each of the schools, which we've had 2 meetings so far, really good, just an opportunity for networking and sharing lessons learned. And then we had our EMD meet and greet, the new state EMD meet and greet, I think 2 weeks ago, in which one of the things that came up was debris management training. So we're going to be looking to try to schedule that. The state EMD heard that, and we'll be trying to do a training thing on the debris management, which is, the deep permitting and stuff like that. And then we had a meeting just 2 days ago with Crisis Track. Crisis Track is our software system we utilize for public assistance to assist with recovery efforts. They were bought out by Javari, who owns WebEOC. So we had a meeting with them because there's some questions in regard what's the future look like for Crisis Track, and then also what's going to be the cost. A lot of municipalities are using Crisis Track, and Region 5 has been the, I'll call it the poster child for Crisis Track. So we don't want to see much change if we don't have to, other than change for the better. But we also were concerned about the cost. But the state is also looking at it as possibly purchasing this for a statewide effort. So we'll see how that all goes, and we'll continue to monitor that. I'll let Joanna talk about long-term recovery and the COVID response stuff. And then last thing is Demis is currently short a few positions, which has caused some backlog in some of the work that we do. That's for darn sure. So with grants and stuff like that, we're trying to maintain as much as we can with the grants, but with the shortage of grant staff, sometimes that becomes a challenge. So just ask for some bearing with us while we get through this. We are replacing some of those positions, and they were lost to retirement or moving to other positions and stuff like that. So I think that's all I have right now. Joanna, if you want to just talk a little bit about COVID long-term recovery. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, John. So our last long-term recovery steering committee meeting was this past Wednesday, June 8th. During that meeting, we had Health and Human Services reps, Jess Christie from Naugatuck Valley Health District and David Morgan from Team Inc. What's happening right now, the health district is mobilizing for mass vaccinations for children. Most municipalities are, according to the CDC, rather, the counties are in the medium risk for COVID transmission right now. And much of the reporting on home PCR testing came from the school systems in Connecticut. So as the schools are now going out for the summer, the health districts will be working with summer camps and other alternatives to gather home PCR tests. Regarding jobs and business, David Morgan, one of the main questions on deck, is Connecticut running out of people qualified for the jobs that are open? This is a big concern as there's a lot of openings, as you know, job openings left that, and as far as Department of Labor statistics in March 2022, there were 1.9 jobs available for each unemployed person. Now, whether the unemployed person had the credentials to fill that position, not sure, but still, that's pretty amazing. And that's in comparison to pre-pandemic February 2020, 1.2 jobs were available for every unemployed person. So pretty significant increase there. Also, what was on deck was housing security, or rather insecurity, and food insecurity, and how those two issues are really combined. And the requests for housing assistance, at least per team incorporated, have increased in the last 30 days, 50%. As far as food assistance requests, at least as per Spooner House, they have increased over 1 year ago. So it's not, although the pandemic may be winding down, and hopefully it will very soon, the effects, and especially the economic effects, are still being felt. Regarding FEMA Region 1 projects that were submitted this past October of 2021, FEMA 1 will be meeting with the state on June 21st to review their resource guides for the different projects. Regional Emergency Planning Team 5, there is a CEO meeting this coming Monday, June 13th. There were proxy forms sent out. If you'd like to assign a proxy, we still need those proxies handed in. You can send them to me or to Rob Phillips at Northwest Hills. And finally, the community emergency response teams, the annual report for 2021 is still being compiled. That's all I've got for today, and we're open to questions.
Joanna, George Temple, Oxford.
Hi, George.
How are you doing? What
what do you attribute the 1.6 jobs available for per every unemployed person? Why aren't these people seeking these jobs, other than the issue of possible credentials? What's being done to get them, to encourage them to get back to work?
Thank you for Selectman Temple. First of all, it's 1.9, not 1.6.
That's even worse.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what the workforce boards and they're trying to figure it out. Quite honestly, the chambers of commerce, the workforce boards, it's not for a shortage of job fairs. It's not for a shortage of training. I know that there are some issues with for people who are trying to, contemplate a new career, getting the training, actually the transportation to get to training. That's also a very, very poignant need. And also a lot of retirements, people moving out of Connecticut. I can't give you a definitive answer. All I can tell you is that chambers of commerce and workforce boards are addressing the issue as best they can.
Yeah, and if I may add, Joanna, the other thing is, our education system is trying to identify ways in which they can better prepare our youth to fill some of these positions in regards to that. So there's a lot of effort going on there, especially at the technical school level, and trying to get skilled trade, so to speak, back into the system as much as they possibly can, and trying to get more students and young people prepared for the workforce, as they move forward into the future. But there is, as Joanna said, First Selectman Temple, there is no easy answer to this. There's so many things that are connected to it, like transportation, like skilled workforce, like the cost of living here in the state of Connecticut. And there's so many different things that are tied to this that, there is not one easy answer to that question. So.
Okay, thank you. This takes us to item number 6 is planning and transportation. We have a resolution 22-16.
Thank you. So last month during the board meeting, I introduced a timeline for updates to the Title VI program. Since then, it has gone through a 30-day public comment period and 2 information meetings have been held. This plan is also included in your agenda packet that went up Friday, and I just want to briefly run through some significant updates that have been made in the plan. Next slide. So we looked at updating our demographic profile maps and charts pertaining to the service area. We looked at minority data and found that 30% of the NVCOG region identifies as minority. We also found that Hispanic individuals make up 16.9 or 17% of the total NVCOG region, and that accounts for a little bit more than half of the region's minority population. We also looked at poverty data and identified the communities that are 1.5 times below the federal poverty level, and noticed that the concentrated populations are more in the urbanized areas, including the Bristols, Waterbury, Derby, and Sonia, etc. Next slide. We also reviewed demographic and data related to language spoken at home. This was to identify the limited English proficient individuals. Again, those are individuals who read, write, or speak English less than well. Of the NVCOG region's population that speaks a language other than English, we found that 27.9, or again, close to 30%, spoke English less than well. That's the indicator for limited English proficiency. We were able also to look at this individual language data, and identify that there's a large Spanish speaking community within the LEP population. Next slide. So again, this is just quickly maps for your reference, noting where those limited English proficient populations exist. Next slide. So amongst the other data that we looked at, we did look at other transportation equity data that includes vehicle access or lack of vehicle access, and also those who use public transportation, just noting the concentrations where service routes exist and noting where the lack of vehicle access exists. Give you a couple seconds to look at that. Next slide. So this year, we also did an environmental justice analysis that included mapping our environmental justice communities by block group So we looked at those that exceeded the regional threshold for both low income and minority populations. We also analyzed the 2021-2024 tip to look at projects programs for disproportionate burdens or disparate impacts. From that, we found that 70% of highway funding is programmed within environmental justice communities, and that 70% of transit spending is programmed within environmental justice communities.
Excuse me, what qualifies it environmental justice? Contaminated properties, lead, lead and paint?
No, not necessarily. So environmental justice, we looked at just those two indicators. So the minority population, we looked at the mean of the minority population throughout the 19 region, municipal region. So any community or block group that was one standard deviation away from that. And then we also looked at the second indicator being poverty. So 1.5 times below the federal poverty level. So if it had any mixture of one or two of those indicators, it's designated as environmental. Next slide.
Yeah.
So we also updated our language assistance plan. We were able to determine what language assistance is appropriate based on assessment of 4 factors. And for the sake of time, won't run through them, but again, significantly finding that Spanish is one of the significant languages spoken by the limited English proficient individuals in the region. Next slide. And from that, in terms of implementation, we decided to take a multi-method approach to language assistance, and that's really regarding the provision of written and verbal translations and how we will approach that. And that's outlined within the plan as well. Next slide. So with that, the recommended motion is to adopt the FCA Title VI plan as presented today.
I just wanted to go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second by Zekin? Discussion.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify your question. So environmental justice communities, EJ communities are a number of criteria, but the thrust of it is that federal and I guess state expenditures don't disproportionately burden certain communities, low-income communities with infrastructure. So the classic case is urban renewal in the 50s. They just, put the highways right through the lowest income neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods had to live with that burden. The same thing is true, as you mentioned, for brownfields. Those are environmental justice communities who are dealing with a disproportionate amount of contamination in their surrounding neighborhoods. But the guidance that we follow under the federal guidance is to determine them by income and by status, to determine whether those people are being unduly burdened or benefiting from those investments.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 6B, grant application updates. Ms. Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. We just wanted to provide an update on some of the new discretionary funding that NVCOG is either planning on applying for ourselves, or that we believe the municipalities are well poised to take advantage of. And so we'd like to start with the Safe Streets for All program. This was a new program created by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It's broken down into 2 categories, an implementation funding category and a planning funding category. So we've been looking at requirements for this. It does require a comprehensive action plan for any implementation projects that are to be submitted. While we don't have a plan in the region just yet that quite meets that criteria, we believe that the existing regional transportation safety plan is very close. And so we'll be working over the summer to update that plan to meet all of the requirements, which will allow each of the municipalities to apply for implementation dollars for any program that is, or any project that is listed within that plan. So over the course of the summer, we will be conducting outreach to each municipality, asking for any projects that you would like to see included in that. Certainly for any that you would like to submit for implementation dollars under this program. And we will have staff available to assist with the creation of those applications. We are also looking at the possibility of submitting an implementation grant region-wide for some of the more systemic type improvements, things like improving roadway striping, repainting crosswalks, and improving pedestrian signal heads. The second piece of this is the planning dollars. Although we believe we'll have a program, a plan in place that meets the implementation requirements, we can submit to receive federal funding to update and improve that plan. And so as a region, we're looking to do so. We think that in addition to putting together a more comprehensive plan that will help us come up with concepts for more future projects, it will set all of the municipalities up for a better application in the later years of this program. And then moving on to the Reconnecting Communities pilot program. This one, a notice of funding opportunity has yet to be released, but we have attended some information sessions about it and seen some preliminary information. This program is aimed at mitigating some of the effects of transportation infrastructure on our communities, especially in neighborhoods that are split by these routes. And so we've been working with the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments and the Northwest Hills Council of Governments on a multi-region application that will allow us to look at Route 8 from Bridgeport up to Winstead in its entirety, identify places where it has a disparate impact on our communities and some mitigation efforts that may be able to be put into place in later years. This program received a much smaller amount of funding in the completed IIJA than was originally requested. And so we believe implementation dollars for this one may be very hard to come across. But at the moment, we do not have a plan that would qualify for implementation funding. So we'd like to get planning started as quickly as possible so that hopefully in later years or in the future of this program, we are better poised to receive those implementation dollars. And then I'm happy to take any questions now. We'll be sending out updates to the communities or to municipalities all summer long as we're making changes to this. Safe Streets for All applications are due on September 15th. So at the September 9th board meeting, we will bring forward a couple of resolutions to get our regional application submitted. But we will make sure that anything that needs to be in place for the municipalities to submit applications is done prior to that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody? All right, this takes us to item number 7. Nope. Lots of return of funds update. I thought Rich was going to keep going.
Sorry about that. Great. So as you all know, NVCOG has been very aggressive with the lots of funding or the lots of program, including programming quite a bit of our funding into projects. We now have 13 that are complete, as well as 6 more that we anticipate completing within this calendar year. And as you all know, especially if you have completed a project, the DOT has yet to audit any of those completed projects. And so you as municipalities are tasked with holding on to the remaining funds until they get to that. And so at our last TTAC meeting, we had several members of the LOTSIP team from DOT present. We talked about quite a few things, including praise from them for the way that NVCOG has executed on this program. But they have been discussing the potential for a modified return of funds model where a full audit does not have to happen right away, but that funding can be returned so the towns no longer have to account for it, and so that it can be returned into the NVCOG LOTSIP program for programming to future projects. They've requested some information from us to start working with a few of you as a kind of a pilot for this return of funds. And so we've compiled all of our completed projects and our nearly completed projects. We will be reaching out, myself and Karen, over the next several weeks to verify that information with each of those municipalities, as well as ensure that all of the correct paperwork is in place. And then ourselves, the department, and your towns will each have an opportunity to try this out and see if it works as a good interim step until the state has the resources available to complete a full audit.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add, we do want to make as quick progress as we can. Want to make sure that you make your financial staffs available to us on this, because potentially right now there's over $2 million that's unexpended from projects that were completed that we can reallocate to other projects, to new projects. So we want to get on top of that as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Number. All right, now we go to item number 7, environmental planning. The approval of the resolution 22-17, endorsement of CIRCA Resilience Connecticut's phase 2 report. Aaron?
Thank you, Chairman. So this item refers to the report that Joanna Wozniak-Brown presented at the beginning of this meeting. And staff recommends that the board endorse it. We think it'll help our communities make stronger bids for funding to implement resilience projects that are highlighted in the plan, and also, other resilience projects that you've all identified in your hazard mitigation plans. Joanna is still on the line here if anybody has any questions.
Any questions, comments? We heard a lengthy presentation, so.
Resolution.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 7B, Soul Smart update. Christine O'Neill.
Yes, thank you so much and good morning. As a reminder, SolSmart is a U.S. Department of Energy funded program that recognizes pro-solar communities and regional organizations through bronze, silver, or gold designations, a lot like Sustainable CT. Back in October of last year, the NVCOG board voted to approve a solar statement, which authorized staff to pursue a designation for our region. So we're very pleased to share that working with our SolSmart program manager, we have concluded that our actions completed to date will actually exceed the program requirements for bronze designation. So within the next few weeks, we intend to submit an application for approval, and hopefully within a few weeks after that, we'll have some very exciting news to share with you. If your community is interested in SolSmart, please let me know. We could possibly partner on some actions. And if anyone has any questions, we're not really recommending any action on this topic. We just wanted you to know and be as excited as we are.
Okay.
Just a brief question, if I may.
Go ahead.
I'm just, how would this designation help the COG and the municipalities thereof?
Of course, yeah. So SolSmart, they actually had a third-party reviewer kind of look at what the impact of doing these actions is. They found that it really did probably increase by, I think, something like 68% the amount of solar development that goes on within a community. It reduces the soft costs and makes it easier for permitting and inspections to occur. And we also provided some trainings. We have some resources online. So all these actions, it's not so much the designation as what you do to get the designation that makes it easier for solar to happen in our region. But we will have some good press and some media attention for getting our award and everything. And hopefully that will attract some solar developers as well.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
I have to leave. Thank you.
Okay, go to weekend.
Bye, Bob.
Take care, Bob.
All right, Aaron, your composter sale.
All right, so we recently held our second annual composter and rain barrel sale. Residents ordered several types of composters and rain barrels on our online store, and we hosted pickup events on May 21st in Seymour and Bethlehem. Sales were good. We sold 80 composters and 60 rain barrels. This is all part of an overall NVCOG effort to address waste issues in our region, albeit a bit more grassroots than some of the solutions that were mentioned earlier. About 40% of residential waste is compostable organics, and each composter that we sold diverts approximately 500 pounds of waste every year. So between last year and this year, if all those composters that we've sold are being used properly, we could be diverting about 43 tons every year of waste. And it represents a really cheap and easy way to reduce the waste stream and to reduce municipal waste costs. And that's with no additional municipal cost. So, we'd like to really promote this idea more broadly. We're looking at grants right now to help subsidize the purchase price in future sales. And we're happy to talk to any municipalities that would like to make it easier or cheaper for their residents to get started with backyard composting. Happy to answer any questions about that.
Yeah, would it be, George Temple from Oxford, would it be possible to have a demonstration of these composters and rain barrels at transfer stations?
Yes, it would. We did attend a few Earth Day events this year, which were very successful. And yeah, we'd be happy to come out to transfer stations or any event that you have residents gathering at.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Item number D, Candy Town Dam update. I don't know if we need executive session.
No, we can post it every time, just in case. Aaron.
So, hello, so we're approaching the end of the 2022 spring migration season, and it's been a complete failure once again. We'd be really surprised if any fish passed the dam this year at all. So a few updates since last month. There've been 3 filings to the FERC docket. Hydroland filed a status update on May 12th, explaining that the latter dewatering that we had reported on last month was caused by a misunderstanding. So, for much of this migration season, they didn't have water in the fish ladder at all, presumably to enable an engineering study of the facility that, as we understand, hasn't taken place yet. The letter also implied that the representatives of Natel Energy have been present at meetings between Hydroland and the resource agencies, and a little bit more on that in a second. So FERC also issued a letter to Hydroland on May 16th, highlighting continued inaction of the dam owner in response to requirements imposed by the commission on December 22nd. FERC asked that Hydroland set up monthly meetings with the resource agencies and collaborate more closely to create a new schedule of actions. They also asked for additional information about a proposed partnership that Hydroland has mentioned that would provide capital assistance and engineering support for improvements at the facility. So on May 31st, Hydroland responded to that letter, stating that they're working on finalizing what they call an operating merger with the potential partner that would provide long-term capital assistance and engineering support for improvements at Kenny Town. They really didn't provide any details other than that. And what we're concerned about is that with a new owner or a new partner, that they're going to be given a new grace period by FERC, which Hydroland has been saying, we're new here, we don't, we need a little time to take care of all these things. But in the 2 years that they've owned the project, they've done none of it. So we're afraid that FERC's going to give the next owner the same sort of accommodation and kick this down the road another few years. So earlier this week, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro and Senator Richard Blumenthal held a press event at the dam, along with municipal leaders and Naugatuck River Restoration Coalition members. Mayor O'Leary, First Selectwoman Dragonis, and Mayor Cassetti all spoke. And speakers urged the resource agencies and FERC to take stronger action against Hydroland for their continued refusal to abide by their license exemption conditions. Rick, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that.
I don't want to speak out of school. I think it's fair to say that the appearance of those members of the delegation has caused people at federal agencies to pay attention anew. I think there's good news in the offing in the very near future. So I really can't say much more than that without speaking on behalf of the members of Congress, which I do not want to do. So, but I think we're rounding the bend on this.
I would simply suggest, Rick, that should another event like this be called, reach out to more of us. I certainly would have attended it. It would have made a difference. The more bodies present, the more impact it may have on the federal delegation to get their attention.
I understand. It was their event. It was not our event.
Okay, gotcha.
It was
Gotcha.
Rosa and Blumenthal, Senator Blumenthal.
Gotcha.
Okay, no action on that item, so
No action required.
there's item number 8 is other, and I don't think there's anything other. So that leaves us at
Motion to
11:05. 11:05.
You're 5 minutes late.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Somebody spoke.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Enjoy the
Great
weekend.
weekend, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
Good.
Rick, how are your hands?
Double check.
Did it help?